And welcome to Justice Serve TV. Oh boy, do we have something special for you tonight? I'm not saying that as a question; that's a statement. It is different. We're going to throw all the normal protocol out the door. We have Alan Jackson standing by. This is not the country singer, right, Linda? This is
not the country singer.
Okay.
Hold on, maybe he wants me. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? The night's young. But before we do that, Oasis Cat, one of our JSTV team members, did an amazing job of wishing you a happy birthday, which we all did officially yesterday. But let's continue the celebration, shall we? You never know who is going to be on this video.
Hey, yeah. Ooh, yeah. She's got a sharp mind and a sharper wit. Deals the cards like a queen, doesn't miss a bit. To be the poodle in her heart, 2 eyes on the prize in the courtroom or on YouTube, she always shines. Happy birthday, Linda, you're one of a kind. Lawyer by day, poker ace at night. Content creator, mom, wife, sister, mentor, friend. Fashion so divine, zealous advocate. Lighting up the sky. From stilettos to suits, she's a style parade. Words like fire, her truth won't fade. A journalist pen, a creator's flair. Mom to be the poodle, she's beyond compare. What's the odds she'd be this great? Law and poker, she rewrites fate. Mentor to many, a guiding light. Linda's world is burning. By day, poker ace at night. Content creator, mom, wife, sister, mentor, friend. Fashion so divine, zealous advocate. Lighting up the sky. Linda.
Lady, did you ever wear any outfit twice? That was just one thing I noticed in that video.
Ever? No, maybe with Jimmy. I don't know. But you know what? The reason why we ran that video is because I pulled an Italian mom type of thing. I said to Alan, who I have, even though people think we're adversaries, and we don't really talk. I've respected for years. I love Alan. I think he's one of the greatest lawyers I have ever met in my whole life. But I pulled one and I said, can you just give me a happy birthday present and come on the show? So Alan Jackson, here we are. I'm going to add you right to the stage and put you
right in the middle there. There we go.
Happy birthday, by the way. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Amazing.
You.
I didn't know today was your birthday. I'm so thrilled to be here on your birthday. It's amazing.
Yeah, so that was the this is the birthday gift. You're a birthday gift. You didn't even realize that.
I love it. Anything I can do.
Jump out of the case. So all of you know that we met, Alan and I met as adversaries, okay? And just so you take a look at us, if I could find us. Missy, where's that picture of the two of us together? Looking a little bit young, actually, if I do say so myself. It's kind of like, let me just say, but I think the years have done us good. So let me just show you this, and you're gonna laugh when you see it, if I could ever get it up there. This is when a lawyer, by the way, becomes a content creator. Look at us, we're babies.
Oh my gosh. Look at
We're
that.
babies, huh?
I'm not sure I even shaved back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're babies. And somebody asked, one of our viewers, I hope he discusses the Spectre case. So we're giving you the opportunity to rub it in.
Not at all. It was so much fun. It was stressful at the time, and I knew I was up against a juggernaut of a defense team led by Linda, and I have been a huge fan of hers ever since. A lot of people don't remember. You may not remember this, Linda. You gave your closing argument. I was so intimidated. In California, just to let your viewers know, in California, It's unlike Massachusetts. The prosecution goes first. So I got the advantage. I got to go first. But I also got a market advantage because I got to go last as well. It's bookended. So the prosecution goes first, and then Linda got up and gave her closing argument. And then I had to rebut that or do whatever I could to try to rebut it. And it was one of the more intimidating moments of my career. Linda gave a 6-hour closing argument. 6 hours. I've never said anything for 6 hours.
Yeah. Why does that not surprise me, Alan?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. And it was, the thing about it that was so sort of compelling for me, at least, was that she, in this, the theme of her argument was to really put the prosecution on trial itself, because the prosecution had lost so many big high-profile cases, celebrity cases, for years and years and years. The DA's office had a spate. Remember, Linda, probably 40 years before Phil Spector, of these big high-profile cases, losing one after another. And Linda used this sort of celebrity conviction motive on the part of the prosecution, us, as the machine that chugged through her entire closing argument. And she paraphrased it by talking about the determination that we had to get a conviction rather than to seek justice. And it was brilliant. As a defense attorney, now I look back and realize the pithiness and the brilliance of that argument. It was fabulously done. And I knew I had my work cut out for me in the rebuttal.
Yeah, and I've never said anything for 6 hours myself either. And Alan knows I was really sick. I had come off pneumonia, and I almost died. And I was really sick. And I'll tell you a little secret I never told anyone before. The last 3 pages, even though it was written, I had not practiced the last 3 pages because I was so sick the night before, being still up. And so I just had to wing those last 3 pages. I have them somewhere, but I don't know what they said. Yeah.
Right.
We did use the word government, which of course you use all the time too.
Right.
You know, it's a big difference between the government versus the state. Who won? Well, I got a hung jury, and then Alan won against. When I was on, Alan won the second trial. But he also had to go through the second trial. I had 6 months of jail. He had a year of jail.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy times. Well, happy birthday in any event. I'm so thrilled that I get an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you on a celebratory day.
Yeah, and so we're going to celebrate. We're actually celebrating you a little bit. I want to bring you back to Karen Reed 2, just a little bit. We're not going to really talk about the trial, but I did have a reaction at that time to your closing, and I want you to see it so people know that this is not made up. This fandom that we have is not made up. Missy, could you just run it? It's about a minute long. She has the asset. She has this asset, as we say in the soon-to-be business. Here we go.
Could you ever say to yourself, this is justice? The fact is, there was no collision. A car did not kill John O'Keefe. So I ask you, let your voice be heard, not in whispers, but in truth. Let the community feel through your verdict that justice cannot be bent and that it will not be buried. Find Karen Reed not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, no break between Hank. Now we know why no collision was 3 times, because the not guilty is 3 times. This was a brilliant, bone-chilling closing by H.
John O'Keefe.
There we go. See, at the time I said it was a brilliant, bone-chilling closing by you, and I later said that day that it's the best closing I have ever seen in my career, which I'm still doing a lot of civil work, even though we have this little side gig at night. But simply, Alan, you were just remarkable under what I think was incredibly difficult circumstances, with a judge who, in my opinion, and I don't, you need to comment, who for some reason disliked you, thought maybe you were lying to her, and then you had to sit there and defend your client, and boy, did you do that. And I said that any attorney always has to be willing to, like, go to the Hooskow, and you were willing to do that on behalf of your client, and that's what I so admire about you. Not only are you a great lawyer, but you have a great commitment, you have a great heart, and you have a great soul.
Thank you. Thank you. That coming from you, Linda, one of the best I've ever seen. I take that to heart. That's a very, very warm compliment coming from you. I appreciate that. You know, the best lawyers in the country, the best lawyers in the world are plagiarists by design, right? We see other lawyers do their job, and you try to emulate as best you can while bringing your own design to the courtroom. Nobody can ever, I think jurors can sniff out somebody who's fake, but you certainly take the advantage of seeing great lawyers in situ, in different situations, and draw from that as much as you can. And I certainly learned an enormous amount of, by watching you and trying that very, very, very prominent case against you on national television. So it was a big deal for me to be able to see you at work, and I know I learned a ton from that experience, and hopefully drew a little bit from it and was able to employ it a little bit in Karen's case and other cases.
Yeah, you're very gracious. So let's talk about Karen's civil claims. And I know Michael Bryant has some specific answers, because I know you have at least 10 defendants right now. There may be another one. And we've been trying to educate people here about Monell claims and try to explain what they are, because we figure if we educate here, maybe a judge will see it, especially a state court judge who has no idea what a federal claim is, what a Monell claim is, what it means. And also, I know Michael has a question, and I'm going to open the floor.
One thing before we jump into that, one thing I say about the civil case, Alan, is I just hope I'm alive if it ever goes to trial. It is such a long process.
Yeah.
Those of us who've done more civil than criminal, that you get used to the boom, boom, boom of criminal, and that ain't the case here. But before we get to that, and I want to dredge up all the stuff that went on in Karen Read 1 or 2, but are you fascinated by the fact that you can scan right now YouTube, all the YouTube law tubers, and they'll be talking about those cases, and more specifically Karen Read 2, in which she was acquitted of all but the one charge. What's your take on the fascination people have with that case, even now we're 3 months out, not focusing on the civil case for the moment, but just how the minutia of that criminal case seems to fascinate people from day to day. It just doesn't seem to end.
I think probably I've been asked that question a lot. I've thought a lot about that. We've all noodled on that. Why the Karen Read case? Why was that so fascinating? Why did that become sort of the fabric of comment in the internet community and the community at large? And my best guess at that is this could happen to anyone sort of affect of it. Karen Read she wasn't a celebrity. She wasn't well known. She was certainly not sort of nationally high profile or even locally high profile. She was a young woman who went to work every day. She did her job. She went to the university and taught her university class every single night. She had a regular family. She was raised in a regular town. She had a lot of friends. She was she had a very normal lifestyle. There was nothing out of the ordinary about her. I would suggest, now that I know her very well, she wasn't. I would never call her average. She's an incredibly, incredibly bright young woman, incredibly intelligent. That's something that just sort of you get that within the first 5 minutes of knowing her. That she's got a level of intelligence that's very extraordinary, not ordinary. But her lifestyle was very ordinary. So I think a lot of people looked at this and said, Jesus Christ, this could be me. This could be my sister. This could be my next door neighbor. There was nothing that focused anybody's attention on her specifically. And yet she goes out for a normal night with her normal boyfriend. They have a normal evening. They have a normal number of drinks, especially for Boston. It's a drinking town. They went out and they got to a location. John gets out of the car and never comes back. And then, boom, the guillotine drops. Her life changes completely. The fact that he never came back out of that house and she went on about her business that evening, that's when she didn't realize that things were changing momentarily, almost instantaneously. And she wakes up the next day and everything is topsy-turvy. She felt like she was in Alice in Wonderland. She had gone down a rabbit hole, didn't realize how to get out of it. And then as the revelation started to come, we just kept, part of what I think the fascination is that we made a determination early on as a defense team. We were going to keep our foot on the gas. We were never, ever going to just take what the government said at face value. We didn't feel like we could. Anything they said, we checked. Anything they suggested, we verified. Anything they intimated, we double checked or double verified, and had to find out for ourselves. And lo and behold, the more we looked under the rocks and around the corners and in the shadows, the more we realized nothing they're saying makes any sense. Nothing they're saying is true. So it couldn't be verified. There was no truth to what they were saying. There were overt lies, abject lies, in things like declarations and affidavits and things of that nature. So as it began to unfold, I think the community's fascination with, well, what happened to this poor police officer who ended up dead in somebody's yard? What does that have to do with us? Well, the fascination became, well, it's a paradigm for it has everything to do with you, because it's a broad-based cover-up for something that could have happened to any one of us. And what the community latched onto was the realization that this is not a one-off. It's not just Karen Reed. There are many, 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 many Karen Reeds in the past in the greater Boston area that have been subject to this kind of corruption, and nobody seems to want to poke that bear. Well, we poked it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it's the area I called the Triangle of Terror: Stoughton, Canton, Dedham. And I used to suggest that the Karen Reed case was really a symptom of a much bigger disease. And you guys have done all the shining of the light on that, and that's why the community support is so strong for it. And people can't seem to get enough of it. So with the civil trial at least looming, we know the answer was filed just the other day. What's the deal with the likelihood of bringing in third-party defendants? Where are we?
So as we indicated to the judge, that's our intention. As a matter of fact, it's more than our intention that we're pretty much putting the final polish on that. I don't want to give away the farm yet. We'll have that probably filed within the next, I would count it in days, if not hours. It's going to be very soon. There's a lot of very, very smart folks who've been putting a lot of their best efforts into it to make sure that document is highly polished. And then we're going to go in, and as we indicated to the court, we're going to go in and ask the judge to allow us to put those two things together at the same time. They're integrated in every single facet of those two documents. The lawsuit of the O'Keefes that Karen Reed is defending against is going to include every single bit of the same evidence and the same parties as the potential lawsuit of Karen Reed against the players that were mentioned in court the other day. So we believe very strongly that judicial efficiency, judicial economy, common sense all dictate, and the law dictates, that these cases should be together and not separate. Otherwise, we're going to end up on dual tracks, and it's going to make for a very complex, complicated mess of litigation, and there's no need for it. So that's going to be the next moment in court.
So I guess I'll ask Michael Bryant's question. I know he has looming in that head of his. Commissioner Cox is in the news yesterday. You filed I
heard
radio
yesterday.
Yeah. You sent him a little note.
A little note, okay?
Yeah.
Possibility he could be added as what we call a defendant?
I've said, Linda, many times when I've been asked this question, and I've been somewhat coy and pretty close to the vest about who we intend to focus our attentions on. But I've said over and over, no one and nothing is off the table. And I will say that in answer to this question. Nothing is off the table. It is a hell of a revelation that we just found out. We, as the communal we, right? The royal we, all of us, have just found out concerning Michael Cox. Very, very troubling information about his candor to the public, candor to his constituents, candor to his own police force, candor to the people that he's supposed to serve. And that troubling information needs to be brought to the attention of those to whom he reports. And so that's why I pinned the letter that I did.
And just for those who may not know what that letter was about, it had to do with former officer Dever, Never say never. And what interaction the commissioner had with her or did not have with her prior to her testimony. Just do the right thing, which of course I'm upset that he stole my tagline. But, you know, did he talk to her? Did he not talk to her? And I think you described it in the letter as he's been caught in a lie, and not a small lie.
Correct.
About his contact with her prior to her testimony. I've never used the words Karen Reed in a sentence. I mean, he went so over the top to deny any connection that when you did catch him, it's just blatant.
Right. That's exactly right. It's the chutzpah that's so galling. Like, just say no comment. If you feel like you're about to step on the third rail and get electrocuted, just say no. I know he wasn't expecting the question. You could tell by his reaction. I think it may have been David Bieniek or from Channel 5. Somebody asked a very pointed question. What do you think about this allegation that came out in court? At least get your ducks in a row. That's the first note for a potential politician or somebody in that position. But nope, in Boston, nope, nobody can touch me. I'm going to say exactly what I want to say, and no one, especially you people, to his constituents, are going to question me about it. Well, guess what? There are some questions, and there are some people out there who are going to ask those questions, and we're asking them, and we're asking Michel.
I'm just going to put number 11 under my defendants. I'm trying to keep a list as if I were you. You know?
Right.
Yeah. The arrogance is outrageous.
That's right. That's exactly the right word for it, Michael. It's just complete abject arrogance, and you have to do. Look, if you're going to hold that position, it's a lauded position, a storied position. The head of the Boston Police Department. Are you kidding me? That is a storied position. Be better and do better. Just tell the truth. Show some fealty, show some commitment to your community members and some fealty to the truth. And if you don't, someone just might call you out on it.
Well, like Officer, don't call me Devers, Duvers, Duvet. I don't know, but it almost didn't matter. And it sounds to me like now we know where she got her testimony from, at least a minute. And again, I'm not asking you for comment. I'm just telling you, as a member of the sitting public here, who at 6 o'clock at night has to do a show every night, that's how I felt. I thought it was an outrageous moment in court from her and everyone else saying, oh, trying to make the defense appear like they were causing her to commit perjury was also outrageous. Well, guess what, people? You got caught.
And were you surprised at all by that testimony and her demeanor, Alan? Because I've never seen anything so horrible in my life.
No, I'd love to be able to say, oh no, I expected that to come. Absolutely no way did I expect that. I had no idea that this young lady, this woman, would comport herself the way that she did on the witness stand. It was, I mean, you could see, but from our interaction, that I was sort of taken. I was back on my heels a bit. I didn't expect that she was going to be incredibly friendly. I didn't think that there was going to be a friendly tone, because she didn't want to be there. She didn't want to testify. But I thought she'd at least tell the truth. I mean, I've got the receipts. I'm staring at a report that has her words in it, written by FBI agents who took an interview. And I was somewhat gobsmacked, the same that everybody else was. And I thought, well, okay, if you want a sword fight, you've pulled out your best weapon. Let's go.
Yeah. And then she mentions FBI after the Judge Canoni was like, you can't mention that agency here. They don't exist. There's
some organization.
Some organization. Right. Organization. Right.
Okay. One more question on her. Just because I gotta get your take on this. Do you think she came up with that memory issue, or it was given to her?
It was so outrageously stupid, quite frankly. I'm looking for a better word, for a more educated word. It was just dumb to try to say that you have you're sitting on a witness stand as a professional witness. That's what you do for a living. You're a professional witness. You serve the community, you serve the public, you solve crimes, you catch the bad guys, supposedly, and then you come to court and you testify professionally. They're taught how to testify. And as a professional witness, the best she could come up with is, I suffer from false memories. What? So, Linda, your look, that's exactly the look. I wish I had been able to do that. but I'm standing with a camera in my face. I've got to act. I've got to comport myself
But
with some sort of
right. I can do this. You couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, wait a minute, did I just hear you correctly? You suffer from false memories. That's your excuse. So no, I was not expecting that, Michael.
Well, and then of course you nailed her by saying, that's your reputation, right? Your job is to testify in these cases. And of course, everybody at that point knew. Missy, can you pull up the video of me saying that? No, everybody knew that she's done. This girl is done. She will not be a cop. She may be a target security guard, but she's done. And sure enough, she's done. So
I think I know someone says, do you remember what I called her? Yeah, I can't say what I called her right now. This is a family show tonight. We're trying to do family, but I did have some choice words for her because I could. And I think that helped in a way because it was all this collectiveness out there of podcasters and streamers, because the regular media wasn't really covering it, that had a collective sigh and a collective calling her out. And I think that also, we had a swear jar for Linda is what people are saying. Yeah, I was absolutely. But we know what you were feeling because it was so outrageous and it was so ridiculous and it was so terrible and it was so over the top. And obviously the jury got it too, which is the most important thing. Sometimes I tell people, if you're over the top with your testimony, the jury's sitting there, they're regular peoples. They get it,
They're far from stupid. I've often said, I say to juries a lot of times that in a closing argument, that if the average age on a jury is some 40, 42 years old or something, there's 550, 560 years of living experience sitting in that box. You're smarter than any one person in this courtroom, including the judge, bless his or her heart. I never underestimate the cleverness, the brilliance, the thoughtfulness of a jury. The minute you underestimate that, that's the minute you're pretty much cooked as a lawyer. And I thought the same thing with her. I take no pleasure. I don't take any joy in, I like a good battle like any lawyer. We're all A-type personalities. We get into it. I get it. But I take no pleasure in somebody's demise. And I knew that she was circling that proverbial drain during her testimony. And I thought, you can stop this. You can stop this. I'm trying to help you stop this. Just knock it off and tell the truth. Say what you saw, say what you heard, give me your percipient witness perception of what happened and what didn't happen. And she just wouldn't. So I don't know where it came from, but you can only take it so far. I knew the jurors were not going to buy that. It's not something that I had to worry about.
Yeah. So every case you go into is another high profile case. Frazier Bohm. Frazier Michael Bohm, since we have a Michael on the panel here, 22 years old, 2023, charged with 4 counts of malice murder. Okay, I'm going to take you off the hook here for a second, Alan, before you comment, and I know you have your colleague who's here to talk to us about this. Looking at this from New Jersey, New York, I look at this case, and I know we have 4 young people who died. But I'm going to say, maybe I'll get a lot of hate mail from this. I think this case is incredibly, ridiculously overcharged, okay? All right, so with that, I'm going to start turning this over to you and the other Michael on the panel, and you're going to bring in, I assume, you're going to bring in Jacqueline, right?
Jacqueline Sperania is my associate, and she's my co-counsel on this case. She has been working the case from day one. She knows everything there is to know from top to bottom about this case. And so I thought it made sense if we're going to discuss the case, to have her come on board and visit with us about it. And so she could add her opinions about it as well, and some thoughts that she wants to add or include. Melinda, I couldn't agree more on both of the counts that you just mentioned, both of the statements that you just made. Number one, first and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a father of a little girl. I know 4 lives were lost, and my heart aches and breaks for the families of those victims. So does Frazier's. So does his parents. Everybody in my office that's touched this case or works on this case feels the exact same way. There is no word or phrase that we can come up with, and we get paid by the word as lawyers. There is no word. There's no phrase that we can come up with that adequately defines the amount of loss that the community and their families have suffered in their death. So with that said, this is not an issue of ignoring the devastation or the tragedy that befell those families. We never ignore that. However, there is a fifth tragedy that can and has begun to occur in this case. A fifth tragedy that is, it's resolvable, it's solvable, and that is overcharging Frazier with 4 counts of murder. This is not a murder case. It has never been a murder case. The prosecution's theory of implied malice, as you indicated, we can get into it as much as you want to, as much granular detail as you want to, but their theory of implied malice murder is that there has to be a number. There is a speed at which that alone equals implied malice. And that is ridiculous. We do not define under Watson, or Watson is the case, as you know, that can, in certain very limited circumstances, bring an implied malice murder to a vehicular manslaughter case, to a case involving the death of an individual vis-a-vis a car accident.
I look at this and I say, this is not Brian Koberger, okay? And I know it's just not Brian Koberger. This kid was not drinking, no drugs, no alcohol. He had the same car I think I read for like 5 years, never a speeding ticket. And I look at this and yes, I know the loss. Again, just like you, I am a mother. We are parents. My husband's lost a child. We know what it's like to be in a situation where you lose a child. But there's a time that the law has to step in and 16 hours decide again, that this is malice murder. It's just not it. Where's the reconstruction? I want to see that first. I want to see everyone interviewed. I want to see the tapes again. But that's just me talking, podcaster out here in New York City.
Jacqueline, let me ask you a couple questions. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm from California. I've been on that road many, many times. Horrible road in general. PCH. It's beautiful, but there's a lot of distractions that begin with the Grand Pacific Ocean, and I think that contributes to how dangerous that road is. How is that going to factor into this case, do you think, for the defense, and how, if at all, will the prosecution use that?
So PCH is notorious for being a dangerous road.
What is it? Can I ask what it is for people that
Pacific Coast Highway, which is number one. And it's the road that takes you to Malibu. You go across the canyons, either Topanga. I was off Laurel Canyon myself. So it's that road that is as far west as you can be without being in the ocean. And you've seen all those $10 million homes right along the road there. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me this evening. PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, is known notoriously as a very dangerous road. And there are certain parts of PCH that are more dangerous than others. And in particular, there's one stretch of roadway that is at issue in this case, literally called Dead Man's Curve. And you can actually pull what's called Switter's reports, which are reports of other accidents that have been reported on that exact stretch of roadway. And you'll find that in a 0.8 mile distance, that there have been dozens and dozens of accidents, as well as fatal accidents on that exact stretch of roadway. And none of those people who were involved in those accidents were ever charged with murder. And in some of those cases, there'll be instances where the driver will be intoxicated, speeding, committing conduct that is far more egregious than what our client did. And even in those cases, they're not charged with murder, but rather they're charged with vehicular manslaughter. And so in this case, it's important to point out that in a murder case, you have to show that the defendant subjectively knew that what he was doing was going to cause great bodily injury or death to another person. And by showing all of these other accidents that have occurred and how if all of these other people are getting into these accidents and they're not being charged with murder, our client should not be either. And so it's the road is.
To dovetail onto Jackie's point, I think it's important for your viewers to understand what implied malice murder requires, at least in California. it requires two things. Number one, an act. The first thing is the act whose natural and probable consequences involve a high probability of, now listen to the end of this sentence, whose natural and probable consequences involve a high probability of death, not high probability of great bodily injury, but of death. So they must prove that the act itself has a natural and probable consequence of which is that it involves a high probability of death. And number two, the second prong is that the proof that there has to be proof that the defendant in this case actually appreciated that death level risk in the circumstances and then consciously disregarded that death level risk. And they say going at a particular speed, they don't define the speed. They haven't defined the speed. They won't say, well, it's 98 or 96 or 97 or 104 or 73. They don't define a speed. They just say, Judge, just variably, there's a speed above which we meet the threshold for implied malice murder. And it's just not true, Linda. It's just not true. They don't have a case that they can point to like this that's ever been prosecuted as a murder. The Watson murders always include, if they're based on speed in any way, shape, form, or fashion, they always include another factor: speed and you're drunk, speed and you're racing, speed and you're street demonstrating, meaning the drifting and going in circles and street racing and such. Speed and you're on drugs. Never, to our knowledge, never in the history of the district attorney's office have they ever charged speed alone as the conduit to murder. And our question is, are you, and it is a valid question. Our question to the DA's office is, are you using emotion rather than law as the determining factor for your charging decision in this case? And I get the emotion. I get it. There's a reason, and I've said this before, there is a reason why we don't allow in this country private prosecutions. Back in the old days, back in England, before we came to this country, before we had a constitution, there were such things as private prosecutions. You were lord of a manor, someone offended you by stealing a horse or cattle or something, and you got to prosecute that person. Well, the reason we don't allow that is because it necessarily involves bias and emotion, and it takes all objectivity away. And I fear that in this case, that objectivity has been lost because of the devastating emotion of the 4 lives lost, which are devastating. But the two things have to exist on separate planes. One is we grieve and are horrified by the loss and the devastation for these victims and these families. On the other side of it is, what is the conduct that we are criminalizing? It is not murder.
Right. And then one of the things I wanted to ask, actually 2 things with regard to that. It would seem under the prosecution's theory that if you have an accident that involves a death on there, and we know there's been some high-profile individuals that have had accidents that involve death in that.
And never been charged with murder.
Never been charged with murder. Isn't it that any speed then would be dangerous? So what do you selectively pick this speed of this kid for some reason because of the amount of people that were huddled together? I also think that they got a problem, Alan, with the reconstruction. I looked at the pictures. I think I mentioned
it exists.
Right.
There is no reconstruction.
There is no reconstruction before this charge. No. And even if you look at the pictures, what they're saying happened doesn't comport with the pictures of Frazier's car, if I may call it Frazier. All right. And that's just, I looked at that in preparation to try to prepare for my interview of you. I don't see it. So who decided that it's going to be just the speed? And because you have cars that are parked there. Maybe they shouldn't have been parked there. You have something chasing him, he says. I kind of believe him after I look at and read the probable cause hearing, which you did not do, or the preliminary hearing, I guess you call it in California. Right. You call it the preliminary hearing, which you did not do. That, when we look at it as lawyers, usually in for instance, murder cases, and somebody says, I saw somebody at that scene, and it turns out that the murderer is really the person who's the witness. I get a little antsy when I'm looking at that. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying that's out there in this case.
Yeah, I agree. I think that well, the question to your very pointed, the answer to your very pointed question is, who did the reconstruction? Nobody did the reconstruction. We've gotten all the evidence. They never did a formalized reconstruction. A reconstruction, an accident scene reconstruction, vehicular homicide reconstruction is a very, very, very specific thing. It's a specific animal. There are professionals out there who do it. There's protocols to follow. There are formula to follow, and none of that was done in this case. I think what happened was, like I said, I think emotion took over. They had these 4 young ladies who were deceased. They had a young man who they could say, they could put him behind the wheel, and they said, King's X, you're done. You're done. And we're going to charge these as homicides in no small part. And by the way, it was not this DA. The sitting DA here, Nathan Hochman, was not the person who was in charge when this case was filed. It was a guy named George Gascon. And there's all kinds of political reasons why George Gascon, I believe, decided to charge this case as it was charged. He was in the middle of a very, very heated political campaign in which he was being accused of being soft on crime. I mean, that was the real campaign slogan that Nathan Hochman was using to really define George Gascon. Well, what was the best way that he could in October 2023? What was the best way that he could bat that back and battle against that accusation? Let's charge Frazier Bone with 4 counts of murder. How about that for being soft on crime? And Frazier's having to carry that water because of George Gascon's decision, which I believe, in my heart of hearts, was a political decision. And none of the hard data supports it. Even the EDR data. They downloaded data using an outdated CDR, an outdated Bosch program that was literally in the download said that we are limited in our data analysis. We, the downloading software, we can only do so much. We're very limited in the analysis that we can undertake. And that's where they get the speed that they claim was 104 miles an hour, which they now are sort of questioning because their own expert at that probable cause hearing, the preliminary hearing, admitted that when the wheels come off the ground, that can badly distort that very EDR data that they're now relying on. There's lots and lots of problems with this case that could have and should have been resolved by the prosecution, by their own investigation. But now we're having to do that, and it's coming at extreme cost to us, not just financial cost, but just labor cost for us to do. But we're going to do it. We're going to get to the truth of the matter, and we're going to fight against these murder charges until we don't have a breath left in us. If this case, and I've said this before as well, if this case were charged as what it should be, a manslaughter case, vehicular manslaughter case, I'll defend that all day long. What I don't want is to have an inappropriate legal argument propounded by the prosecution. Prosecution's a behemoth. The government, especially here in Los Angeles, they are a behemoth. There is no resource they don't have. They're massive. They're massive. And Frazier is having to fight at this point against 4 charges that just do not hold. They are not legal charges. And that's the scary part of this case.
Alan, you answered my first question, and that was the Gascon versus Hochman, right? Totally different philosophies, and we know Gascon got blown out of the water, and he's no longer a factor. Has there been any contact with the new DA, Mr. Hochman? Has there been any approach by his office to do something with this case?
Not personally. I have not spoken with Nathan Hochman, about this at all. There may come a time when we ask for an audience with Mr. Hochman. That hasn't happened yet. I don't like to do anything sort of half-baked. I want to make sure that I have as much information at my fingertips as possible before I do suggest such a meeting. And if such a meeting is in order, which I think very likely it will be, I would expect that Nathan Hochman would accept that audience and at least sit down and listen to me. That's what he's known for doing. He's known as being very reasonable, and my hope is that he sort of follows that same protocol with us in this case.
Do you think, Jackie, may I call you Jackie?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you think that because he was driving the type of car which appalls me, because I drove one, a Porsche, or because he's viewed
It
as
was a BMW. It was a
It's a
BMW.
BMW from the Black Forest, but different car.
Well,
Yeah.
BMW, okay, BMW. And do you think that because he's looked at as preppy or more on the wealthy side, that has anything to do with what you have to do as a lawyer? I'll throw it both to you, Alan, and to Jackie.
Yeah, I think that you know, the media isn't really helpful in this department because every headline is rich kid in Malibu mowed down 4 beautiful girls, and so we're having to unravel that by explaining what really happened here. And I believe that the filing decision also, you know, it was just, he was an easy scapegoat in the moment. You know, if you actually look at the facts, it's so much more than what the headline is showing. And so, yes, that has been a little bit difficult to sort of unravel, but we're starting to.
And it's not like, Linda, it's not like he was out on some joyride. I mean, this isn't a kid coming home from a party late at night, drunk, high, bunch of kids in the car going nuts, you know, just out speed racing. This is a young man who was driving from Santa Monica down PCH, to your point, Michael, down PCH, or actually up north on PCH, toward Malibu, with food in his car seat. He had gotten some tacos to go over to a friend's house to celebrate that person's birthday. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't high. He had his BAC was tested at the time, 0.00. Drugs.
And he cooperated. Let me throw that in.
Let me dispel a rumor that's been out there that the media has loved to sort of suggest that he tried to flee. That is, I know it's a family show, but it's, Michael, can I say bullshit?
You can say bullshit.
Yeah.
Good, because I just did. That is bullshit. He did not try to flee. He was literally concussed. He had a concussion from the impact itself. The car door comes open, and he's still sitting in the driver's seat when a guy named Victor Calandra comes up to the driver's seat and physically pulls him out and threatens him. And when I say pulls him out, I don't mean pulls him out to render aid. I mean pulls him out to scream at him, yell at him, call him MF and every name under the sun, and drag him over to the curb and forcibly sit him down there, which he never moved from. This young man never tried to flee. He wasn't texting on his phone. We know this because we've got his phone. We've got the data from his. He wasn't texting. He wasn't emailing. He wasn't looking at a video. He wasn't on YouTube. He wasn't high. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't nothing. There were other factors involved that led to this incident, this terrible, tragic accident. And one of those factors was he was being harassed by someone engaged in road rage. Someone who, by the way, notably has a history of road rage on that street in that city. He was trying to get away. He had there's elements of PTSD that Frazier suffered from because he had friends in the past who had passed away from speed incidents, vehicular incidents, a terrible accident. He wanted to get away from this person, so he speeds up to create distance between himself and the person whom he believed wanted to bring him harm. And in so doing, another car drifts over into his lane, connects with his car, sends him over the lane. And on PCH, Michael, to your point on this dead man's curve, the cars parked legally on the side of the road are within 8 inches, maybe if it's a really, really small car, 10 inches from the yellow line separating traffic, generally going at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour from static cars parked on the side of the road. It is unbelievably unsafe, just in general. And so it doesn't take much to be bumped, distracted, hit on the left side of your car, look to your left around that curve and drift 6 or 8 or 10 inches to the right. And next thing you know, you make contact with the parked car and the conflagration.
Yeah.
And by the way, that car that hit him fled the scene, which no one talks about.
Well, we're talking about it tonight. That's why we wanted to have you on to discuss this, because as I said to Alan today, as I was talking to him, I looked at this and I see massive issues here, and yet I still see a tragedy. And you can have both. You can have a tragedy of 4 deaths and a tragedy of somebody, as we just discussed, being wrongfully charged. I mean, we see it all the time. We see wrongful convictions all the time. just because somebody died. You have to get the right charges if you're going to charge somebody, and you have to have a crime. Sometimes it's not even a crime.
Right. Correct.
Jackie, let me ask you, because this is so important. We're talking about the charges, murder versus manslaughter. That break it down for us. Give us the numbers. What are you fighting against here in the difference of these two charges?
I mean, he's facing 4 counts of 25 to life on the 4 counts of murder.
4 life terms, 4 consecutive life terms.
Versus a more appropriate manslaughter charge, if there is going to be a charge, which is what is it in California? I forgot. 5 years?
It depends on the level of manslaughter. There are different types of manslaughter, but it would be a determinate sentence in the range of anywhere from. Look, there's misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter as well, which by the way necessarily includes the death of another human being. Misdemeanor manslaughter. Any manslaughter includes the death of another human being, and the legislature included that. So it could be anything from a year in jail to 16 months, 2 years, or 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years in jail. It's a significant difference depending upon the evidence and the facts that are brought forth, and then what he's ultimately convicted of. It's a massive, life-changing difference fighting a manslaughter case than fighting these murder charges. The murder charges, his life is over. He goes to prison for the rest of his life. Dies in jail.
And there's some people that will want that because they'll look at, as you said, the 4 deaths. But you have to look at, you're in the criminal justice system to do right by everybody. To me, the fact that he has no drugs, no alcohol, is huge to me. It is absolutely enormous.
No prior warnings. He had never had as much as a traffic ticket. Right. Let alone a speeding ticket. He never rolled through a stop sign. No intoxication, no prior warnings through the court system. Watson was built on the premise that a person who's been warned through the court system, because they've got a prior DUI, they've got a prior accident, including a great bodily injury of an individual, injury to other human life, et cetera. They've been warned and usually prosecuted previously, and then they go out and do it again and completely ignore the risk and do the same thing again. That's when we can up the ante under the Watson case to murder. But in this case, none of that exists. No intoxication, no speeding, no braggadocio or defiance, after the fact, which some of the cases have, who cares? I was just speeding. It's no big deal. And they ran over someone in a crosswalk. Like, those kinds of facts don't exist here.
And we don't even know. We don't even know if the speed exists. Everybody speeds on that road. That's not the issue.
Everybody speeds on that road. I was on that road this past weekend for a drive with a friend of mine, and I was getting blown off the road by people speeding on that curve, that 0.8 of a mile curve that Jackie was just talking about.
Yeah.
It looks like Treasurer Bohm is in great hands with both of you. No doubt about that. There's absolutely just unbelievable. But before we let you go, okay, because we know what's happening, Michael Bryant would like to speak to you about this.
Yeah, I've got an issue. I've got an issue.
I took a screenshot from China TV because I don't want to get dinged for any on YouTube for any copyright issues.
So, Alan, you're a Dodgers fan. You said you were at the game last night, so God bless you. Good for you. I was just curled up in a fetal ball on my bed up till 3 a.m. when it finally ended, really wondering, okay, just shoot me now. When is it ending? I know it's going to happen. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. I know the Dodgers. I know their operation. I know they have a massive payroll, which doesn't get talked about enough. It's the best money can buy. Okay, so you got 7-8 guys that can all hit a dinger and end this thing, and yet it would not end. It was brutal. How was it for you being there?
It was incredible. It's once in a lifetime. I mean, I think the only other game that's come anywhere close to that, I was say 18 innings or in 7.5 hours or something like that. Maybe it was 20 innings and 7.5 hours. Was the Dodgers against the Boston Red Sox. But otherwise, this is a one of one. 18 full innings with the Dodgers winning, with Freddie Freeman just jacking one out of the park at the bottom of the 18th for another walk-off home run. And you know what, Michael? I was in the park last year when the Dodgers, I think it was game 1 of the World Series, when the bases were loaded. They were down by 3 or 4 or something. I guess they were down by 3. And Freddie Freeman comes up to the plate at the bottom of the 9th And jacks another one out of the park and clears the bases and wins the game. This guy's really got it going on. I got to tell you, the thing that's impressive is that young man, Klein, I think his name is Klein, who came in out of the bullpen. I think he's a rookie, that redhead with that red beard.
He was the last guy.
Oh, my God. He was the last guy. You know, they had the starting pitcher from 2 days ago, Roki. Yamamoto. He was up in the bullpen, ready to pitch again, which would have ruined the rest of the dominoes, the rest of the rotation for Dave Roberts, and was just flame throwing for what, 3.5 innings, just crushing it. What a performance for a rookie. Can you imagine how he slept? He didn't sleep last night. He's like, this just happened. It was incredible.
Wired. I did have a flashback because the Giants played the Nationals. I think it was 4 years ago. 18 innings. I was at that game in Washington, and Belt hit a home run in the 18th inning, and we had to wait, of course, because it wasn't a home game for the Giants. But those things don't happen very often. I mean, they're historical. And as much as I don't like to use the word hate, dislike the Dodgers because I have to. I have to. I'm a giant baseball fan, and I have to appreciate what's going on and what these guys contribute. It just chaps my hide that they have the best players and they spend so much money. But anyway,
Ohtani is something. He's not human.
He's not from this planet. No,
I don't know. He's not from this planet. And after what he did last night, he almost hit for the cycle. Right? If they hadn't kept walking,
they walked him the last 5 times.
Yeah, if they hadn't walked him, he was going to hit for this. All he needed was a triple. Home run, single, double. I think 2 doubles, 2 solo home runs, and all he needed was a triple to hit for the cycle again. And all he's going to do is go home last night, sleep for 6.5 hours, and pitch tonight.
That's the thing. He's going to pitch. He can hit and he can pitch. I mean, that's the most, right?
Since Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, there hasn't been anybody like him in this league.
Yeah, but it's a throwback, and they really don't train people to do that. If he hadn't come from another country, they will cut you off. My son's a pitcher, and they stopped him hitting. That's just what they do.
Yep, exactly. No, it was a thriller. It was so exciting. I can't wait for tonight's game.
So anyhow, we have a lot of questions from our viewers to get to, which we're going to get to, but we're not going to keep you. We're going to let you go. And I just want to say one thing. You did prove this. You want to play the courtroom scene, Missy? The court, outside the courtroom. You were so gracious, Alan. You've always been gracious. So why don't we play this? This is Michael Bryant, who you didn't know, asking you this question.
Mr. Jackson, Linda Kenny Baden is my co-host. She wanted me to say hi. You know Linda Kenny Baden.
Tell her I love her.
Tell her you love her.
Love you, Linda. Love you.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, do we have the question? Remember the first day of the gag order. In fact, this is so nice, Alan, to actually be able to talk to you instead of at you because the gag order. But there was that one very important question I asked on the first day of the gag order. I said, Mr. Jackson, I know there's a gag order in place. Who are you wearing?
Now you can answer.
You remember that question?
I do. I did not realize. I didn't clock that was you.
Yeah. I was the only one dumb enough to ask that question. And I stunned you for just a moment. Yeah.
I don't get stunned often. That was Kelly Dever stunned me and you did.
And who are you wearing? I guess the answer is who are you wearing?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Canali that day.
I'm
going to go with that.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Everybody.
Thank you for having us on. I appreciate you giving us the platform to visit about these cases. They're super, super important. And God bless you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I'm so thrilled to be able to spend an hour with you. And please give my love to Michael, one of my favorites.
He says hello, too. He says hello also. He respects you, too. And you know that. We're big fans.
Awesome. Yeah, same with us. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. And all of our viewers, stay on. We have a lot of questions here to answer and all. He is so gracious. They're both gracious. But let me go through some of the viewer questions. Aunt Sent became a YouTube member. Thank you very much. And Aiden Carney was in the chat, Dr. Turboy, who we spent last night's show on.
Congratulations to Aiden. Yeah,
congratulations,
nice
Aiden.
little victory there.
Fraser Baum, the same week there was reported that a Karen accidentally hit John. Just feel horrible for everyone involved, but not murder. All right. And I think that's a very big feeling with regard to everyone. Thank you, Aiden, for joining us. can go back and look at our show on Aiden last night. New Jersey is doing the right thing by him. All right.
Yep.
George Mehar gave a donation. Please speak a little about the Spectre trial. I followed it. So Alan did speak a little about the Spectre trial again. Very gracious.
Quite a formative time for him. You schooled him. I mean, you guys shared that experience, and then he was able to, turn that into what we saw in the Karen Reed case.
Yeah, that's great. Great of him. As I said, he's very gracious. Karma Dharma, please speak a little about the Spectre trial. Yes, there we go again. Another person. The Karma. I know you got your cup is in the mail. AJ bringing presents to Linda and Norfolk County. Thank you for that. Joyce Schmeyer again, Mr. Jackson, you make every trial look boring now. Masterclass in law, we taught at every law school. I'm sure Alan's still listening to this going on if he's not already going to the game. But Shay 3884 became a YouTube member. Thank you. Join the hunt. We're going to be next week having a meeting because I have so many clues that have been given to us by members from the hunt and the search for who killed it. I will now say who murdered Stephanie Vilko now that these clues are coming in. Thank you very much. Member for Glam Masseuse, she will always be Diva to me. That's talking about Ms. Devers, Diva Devers, Dowers.
I still, still just thinking about her, I just can't get that attitude out of my head. It's just shocking.
Yeah. Joey Kane. Hi, Joey. The entire panel so smart.
Well, smart. It hurts my hair.
Wicked smart. We're wicked smart. Yeah, we are. And Kanye Schmidt. Gifted 5 Justice of TV members. Thank you very much. They've already obviously been given out. People,
you might get one.
Yeah, people, if you're a subscriber, that's all you have to hit that subscribe, like, share, notify button. You could easily get one. We don't have anything to do with it. They just go randomly, but you have to be a subscriber. So that's my push on that. Sarah Be Creative, happy birthday. Thank you, Sarah, for that donation. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you joining in tonight on this, this show. This was a long time, actually, sort of in the making. And as I said, I pulled the HA, can you just give me a birthday present? Can you just give me a birthday present? And I see all of you are following suit, giving presents, emotional aid. I love it. But you have to be a subscriber, okay, to be able to get, if you're not, to be able to get one of these membership gifts, okay, and all. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank Alan Jackson. I want to thank Jacqueline for coming on to discuss a very difficult case, the Frazier Bohm case, and what it's like when you're up against a media juggernaut that may have the story wrong. Yes, we know that 4 people died. We know it's terrible, but this is not Brian Kohberger, I don't believe.
No, and part of the problem, is the Gascon factor. He started this, and he had a big head start. It's been 2 years now, right?
Right.
He had a big head start in polluting the media about what this case was all about and how it helped him politically. I'm tough on crime. Look, I got the guy in the BMW. And yes, it's tragic, the 4 girls that passed away as a result. But you don't use that as your political platform. And I think had it happened under someone else's reign, perhaps Mr. Nathan Hochman's, maybe this would be different. And I think it was good to hear Alan suggest that there may be that conversation to come and maybe the right result, fighting a manslaughter charge, 4 of them, very different than the murder charges they're up against now.
And then we also got a heads up that keep refreshing that Karen Reed civil case docket because
within, I think he said days, right?
Within days, there could be an affirmative suit against a number of people. He wouldn't say who. I have a list of my own.
Well, he mentioned, he kind of referred to all those that were mentioned that day. So the only one that I can recall not on that list was Michael Cox. So he may be an add-on, but all the names. We heard them all that day. All the Higgins, McCabe. So, we heard them all.
And yes, you can have a case against the state police for negligent training, supervision, and retention. Sure. Okay, it's called the Monell claim, all right? So I'm going to educate you all because maybe the judge doesn't know that you can sue the state police if you have a Monell claim.
Yeah, I didn't want to put him or Jackie in that position to talk about the judge, but I am very curious about this judge. And my perception during that hearing was, how do we shove this into the normal civil case box, right? I don't want to get all these extraneous third-party claims. That's kooky. These cases resolved through settlement.
Right.
He was very interested in my opinion, not pursuing the truth through trial, just getting rid of it. And that's not going to work, I don't believe, with the current attorneys. And we've talked to Damon Seligman, who is the co-counsel for Ms. Reed, and he's promised to come on. He did say he wants to get his client's approval. So
we'll wait.
Certainly that's appropriate, and we're okay with that. So.
Okay, so two other things. I was going to show Alan this, that he's gone on to be equally famous as Otani. There was a movie about me in the Spectre case. Alan Mirren played me and ended up with the Screen Actors Award Guild. And somebody just asked, because we do a little fashion in every show and a little humor. Yes, but not these earrings. These are Chanel earrings from the spring 2023 collection. Okay, so that answers the fashion part of the show. These are very difficult shows. We're talking about very difficult subjects. So we try to lighten them with a little bit sometimes of our personal lives, different things, because as you know, when we speak to you, it's coming from where we are, where we've been, and what we know. So.
Well, good job, partner, getting that all arranged, to have a reunion with your trial buddy. So
fought for hell for 6 months in the courtroom. But, you respect, talent when you see it. All right.
Yep. And you can tell the character of those you go up against when you're not in court, right? When you're humans dealing with clients, zealously representing them. If you can't put that other adversarial moment away when you're doing your job in the arena, I got a problem.
Somebody wants to know about my jacket, by the way.
Oh my God! Can you see hanging out with Hank Brennan? Can you see hanging out with Hank?
Well, before that trial, I could have. Yeah, I would want to know about the mob and.
Yeah, well, I know he and I were very tight when I was up there.
I don't think so.
I don't. Not Lally either. So,
Lally, you saw was smoking a cigarette right outside.
Yeah, he was stressed out, having a butt outside the courthouse. Yeah. When they were prepping, I'm trying to remember, it was a big witness that was coming the next day, and he was not going to be done anytime soon, he said. So that's not good for a guy who's a career 9-to-5er. They freak out if you're there after 5 o'clock. Yeah. Anyway, what's today? Tuesday?
Somebody wanted to know whether when AJ decided to be on the civil case. I didn't ask that. I don't think he would. That's something that he would tell us anyhow. But again, I think somebody pointed out in the chat that he should be governor of the state of California. It's hard for defense attorneys to become governor, but I think if there is one that could become governor of the state of California, it's Alan Jackson.
In California, that might be tougher than some other states. California's got its own issues, I say, as a born and bred Californian. So, yeah. Anyway, tomorrow, we got something going on tomorrow, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, I do. Next week, just a long, deep tease here, Michael Easter will be back on. Yeah. For those who remember those little Celebrite self-promoting PR videos that were so cringy? And I don't use that word often. Well, he's looked at them. We're going to look at them with him and get his professional take on what the hell they're talking about. So that was Ian Whiffen.
Ian Whiffen, or Wiffle Ball. So Joey came through. I did those little things for me. I called him Ian Wiffle Ball. All right, and we are going to have a Thursday night. Marty Tankliff will be on dealing with the Teresa Fusco and who should be accountable. And we may have some updates on that because we have sent a letter to a university where the prosecutor who had a responsibility, in our opinion, for some of this wrongful convictions is still out there teaching a course, but we want to know why he's not teaching a course on wrongful convictions. And so we have written an email to him, which Misty will disclose, and we have written an email to this university, which Misty will disclose, and that'll be Thursday. And on Friday, I just want to tell you.
They got some splaining to do, by the way.
Wait a second.
Hold on.
I'm just going to start now.
Hey, it's Rams Blue. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But it's not Toronto Blue Jays. But I just want to start putting this on now because on Friday, this is going to be part of my outfit for Halloween. Alan Jackson, if you are still on the air, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Now I have to get it off.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine. All right, then. Thank you for joining us, folks. Quite the evening. I'm Michael Bryant. That's Linda Blue Kenny Baden. This is Justice Served TV. Please Try to do the right thing.